So,
we're covering it all today.
we're covering
Corona,
always.
Down syndrome,
So you get
global
this
warming.
one thing you gotta.
Yeah.
On my show, it's about everything and anything
Okay.
in between. Welcome to Let's Talk with Sarah. This is another episode, but this time it's going to be special because we have Tanya here with us, and she has a podcast basically called Janda Becanda.
That's right.
Where can people find it?
Wherever you find podcasts, it's available there. So it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Himalaya, Stitch, everywhere.
So yeah, how did you come up with Janda Becanda?
First, it rhymes, and some basic prerequisite the fact that I'm a janda. So I lost my husband, my first husband in 2008, and then I got divorced last year. So I'm two types of janda.
You're both.
Yes.
You're kind of filling all the boxes.
Yes. So janda is the Indonesian
Widow.
word for both widow and divorcee.
Right.
And I qualify for both.
For both.
Widow/divorcee.
Right.
So that's why.
Right.
That's why I'm both. And you know, like there's a lot of strife that goes in with the janda struggles.
Right.
But I like to take on a lot of my challenges with humor and a lot of laughter.
So when did you actually get that started?
Late last year. So this is my second season. Later this year, I'm going to be holding a workshop on how to set up a podcast for other voices out there, different stories, different niches, because I think it's important to get your message out there if you have a good story to share.
when you get that event done, let us know so we can promote it, right?
I actually interview a lot of people who are hosts in different podcasts as well. So,
okay.
but I just want to clarify one more thing. So I have guests who are not jandas. So just to be clear, I'm the janda on the show. She's happily married.
That's right.
We don't want to start any rumors.
The Janda Becanda, the one who's joking, is her.
Yes, that's the only prerequisite. Okay.
Right. Yes, the Becanda part is it means joking.
The joking around,
Right,
yeah.
right,
so,
right.
But we were just catching up on the fact that we have something else in common,
Right.
which is that we have children with special needs.
That's right.
Yes, and it happens to be that both our kids have Down syndrome.
Which out of your 3 children, which one is
The second one.
Is the second one. So
He's 6 years old.
Right.
Your son is 2?
2.5. Yeah.
2.5,
Yeah.
the one who has Down. So the challenge for me in Indonesia has been education.
Yeah, for sure.
Development resources for my son. We moved to Bali. We're in Jakarta now, and it's very well known for its beautiful beaches and whatnot. It's a resort island, and so the challenge that I had was to have the proper resources for schooling, speech therapists.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning was physiotherapy because my son Liam was delayed in walking.
Right.
Which was
motoric skills.
Yeah, motoric skills that needed, and there was only one center that had that, and it took us an hour and a half one way. So
Wow. Yeah.
especially for
But that was while you were in Bali.
while we were in Bali, so
Yeah.
my son was a year and a half, so that was a trek for him
Oh yeah.
to go through 3 times a week, twice a week, to go
Yeah.
through all these different places.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I hate to say it, but it was not always the best resource. That even the one that we had wasn't always great.
Because it was the only one.
It was the only one, and it wasn't so great. And the same here also in Jakarta, even though it's a bigger city, but it's limited.
Yeah.
So what I found is that a lot of other families who have children with special needs, they've resorted to, as their children grow older, they've imported teachers from.
Oh yeah.
And they've homeschooled their kids.
Yeah.
But that becomes basically you're setting up your own school for your own kid. It's a private school for your own child.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not every family is that lucky to have that kind of resources. So it's interesting for me to sort of pick your brains in terms of what.
And my brain's ready.
And so putting our heads together, because this is how we change the world. Moms get together.
Hey.
And then put our heads together. And
I like
then-
this.
So your son, is he currently in school?
He is. So I did look around for a early intervention school. So that's what we call it, right? When they're still an infant, still a toddler, and they need to prepare, like for our kids, for example, you know, those with certain syndrome, especially those like our kids who have Down syndrome, it's possible for them to go to a normal school that's inclusive. Right. So it's not a special needs, you know, like a school for kids with special needs specifically, but that has an inclusive program. Right. It is possible, but you need to get them started, and the preparation needs to start early, which is why they call it early intervention. Right. So I was, you know, after talking to the specialist in Singapore, I was like, oh my gosh, do I have to move to Singapore? Right at that time, hello. Wow. I was like, oh my gosh, and I was still a member of parliament. I was like, wow, how is that going to work? Am I going to make the decision? I was thinking that I had to make the choice where by the time he gets to be 2, I need to already choose whether or not I'm going to be moving to Singapore if I couldn't find anything here. So I started looking, and that's how I found Infinity. It's in West Jakarta. And so they have an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, and early intervention program where the kids, because it's not just like homeschooling where you usually just have like your kid. Right. But this one has like quite a few students.
And not just Down syndrome.
And not just those with Down syndrome. So they get socialized basically. You know, they get their socialization, they get friends, and with my son, he's a very social creature. Like he loves being with his friends and dancing and singing and all of that. So he needs that, I feel. But now I think I'm going to get to the point where I am thinking of starting that process of getting more used to, you know, a normal school and all that. So maybe I'm going to do half-time, half and half. But the process wasn't easy. You know, trying to find, again, you know, we all rely so much on our search engines, you know, whichever you're using. I'm kind of trying now to go into Ecosia. I'm promoting that because it's for a noble cause, okay? Every search you make, you plant a tree.
That's right.
Hey, who doesn't want to do that? If you are in your right mind, you want to do that. Excuse you, but you know, all you naysayers and deniers, but
about global warming.
Yes, thank you very much. Climate change. Climate change. But
so we're covering it all today.
We're covering
Corona,
always
Down syndrome,
so you get
global warming.
This one thing you got to on my show. It's about everything and anything in between. But yeah, no. So basically, if you want a search engine, that's, you know, it all started with the internet, right? Trying to search because I didn't know anybody else who had a child with Down syndrome. Right. My cousin, my nephew is on the spectrum, but the needs are very different, you know, and again, he's one of those whose parents had to go and look for therapists from all over the world. And the ones we know, and that's so shocking for me, is that in Indonesia, I had to ask a speech therapist that I recently just employed for my son, because she's Indonesian. And I had to ask, I'm like, so do you guys have schools here that are giving you? And she's like, yeah, but there's only like 3 or something. That's specifically for speech
3
therapy.
in a country of 200 million people.
260 million people.
260 million people, so...
Exactly, 260. Let's get that right, people. You know?
So 3 schools even for Jakarta is not enough.
That's not enough. So that's another thing and that was the reason why I was quite adamant on, when I was in Parliament, fighting for the Persons with Disabilities Act, or bill, and we passed it, thankfully, in 2016. Now it's just about implementation. Again, we have to keep pushing the government to make sure that there are more and more teachers, more and more therapists qualified, and more, we call them pendamping. So those who
accompany the shadow teacher.
Like the shadow teacher, or those who accompany the family, you know, who, like they're social workers, right? Who basically give counsel and also just like, oh, this is what you need to do. They're kind of like managing, helping you manage through life and all that. So we need more of those for sure.
Yeah. So, and other than that, like, you know, my son Liam, who's 6, and he's also like your son. What's your son's name? Wira. So he's also like Wira, very lovely, very loving, warm.
They all are.
Yeah. So
you know, these kids with Down syndrome, you cannot look at them and not want to smile, minimum smile, and then you're like half the time you want to laugh because of what they're doing.
They're angels. They really are.
They are angels sent on earth. And I think one of my friends basically said that, families who have kids like that are absolutely blessed because they help you.
Amen.
Or in their faith they help you get to heaven.
Amen.
Because if you take care of them right, it means that you are taking care of God's gift on earth, So it's a blessing.
All right, so we've identified that there's definitely a need
Yeah.
for better schools or more resources.
Resources for sure.
And in the meantime, do you find that you are also doing things yourself at home to become more of a teacher for your son? Because when I was in Bali, for sure, I found that I had to do this is what people with kids who have speech delay would have to do anyway.
Right.
Which is you take on the responsibility of you yourself becoming more educated in terms of.
Oh,
yeah.
That's for sure. I think it's an automatic.
Yes.
If you love your child, your children,
Yeah.
with whatever condition they come in, you would do everything
Right.
necessary, everything in your power to know what it takes, even without special needs. You're searching for what school do I want,
Right.
with the same vision and mission,
Right.
with what I have in mind for my child, right?
Right.
Well, this is like a whole other level.
Right.
Basically, we're talking about, even just the most basic, not needs, but abilities, right? You have to be there to keep guiding them, and you're everything in one. Like, you're sometimes the clown, you're sometimes, you want to keep them happy, and then you're sometimes you're the coach, you're the teacher. But again, I'm very blessed because I have an amazing support system where, and I found a nanny who loves him, who's like a soulmate to him. I mean, I think she prefers to be here than at home half the time, honestly. But without that, I think that's why I know I'm blessed. Without that, it's close to impossible to keep being a working mom. And so, I salute every single mother with kids, right? Who are, and then kids with special needs. So my hats go off to all those, and it's not easy. It's not easy because I don't know if are you part of a support group?
I am not part of a support group, so this is probably whoever's listening and who wants to become a part of a support group, write into me, and then one of the things that I can do is I can start beginning to list that and collate all this information on my website, in particular on the show notes for our particular interview.
Yeah.
So it becomes, it's a sharing platform for us. When what we've learned, share it a little bit, pass it on.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a richer database.
So the one that I'm part of is called POTAS.
Okay.
So it's Persatuan Orang Tua Anak dengan Down Syndrome. So it's basically for parents who have kids with Down syndrome, and quite a few of us we're ranged depending on the age range and all that. Almost every week we're reminded how blessed we are every day that our child is alive, because we have news of child dying, because of complications, so on. And here's the thing also, it's not that these kids we have to clarify as well. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, because they think whether it's autism, spectrum, the autism spectrum, or it's, Down syndrome, and all the other syndromes listed, somehow it's to do with, the parents. DNAs, how you bring them up and all that. Well, when it comes to DNA, for example, which is the case here, it's like having, your DNA tells you whether or not you're going to be born with black hair, brown hair, blonde hair, whether you're going to have brown eyes or blue eyes. It's not something that you can control. And that's why I say that they're God's gifts in our life. And so the only thing that of course makes them, special is because, it might take them longer to learn certain things and to do certain things, and they might not be the smartest kid on the block according to society standards, but like my son, for me, he's smart. He might not do it as fast as you can, but he gets it. And I think a lot of the times it's also, people need to understand that what we're very much concerned about is they are very vulnerable to diseases and viruses and bacterial infections, and that's why they need like that much more special care. It's good for me, these support groups is good to keep us grounded, to know what's going on with all the other kids around us. Because I'm one of those that, I'm like, I do my own research and I probably know more about
Yeah.
the stuff.
Nothing
like,
more powerful than a
really-
resourceful mom.
Hey, I
Not-
like that. That's
nothing
gonna be
more
like
powerful.
another quote.
Yeah.
Nothing more resourceful than a.
No, nothing more powerful than a resourceful.
Sorry, that's right. Nothing more powerful than I had to just mess that up. Never mind. All right. Like some people just react in a negative way. They're like, "Oh my gosh, why would you put yourself below another?" That's not it at all, right? Let's talk with Sara.